Welcome to the AK Star Student Tutorial. Chapter 1. Accessing AK Star Practice Tests. You will need headphones for this tutorial. If you can read the text in the box below but cannot hear sound, pause this tutorial now and get some help to ensure your headphones are working. Soon, you will be taking some important tests. You take these tests to show how much you have learned. Each student is routed to their next question based on the correct or incorrect response from the previous question, creating an individualized assessment for each student. We're going to talk about how you can do your best on these tests, and the tools available to help you while you're testing. The testing application will present you with two options. The first option is to take the AK Star Summative Test. You will select this option on the day of testing. Do not select this link before that time. The second option lets you take a practice test. When you select that option, the practice test will load. Give it a few seconds until you see the practice using the software screen. You will need to make 4 selections. Select the year, then select the practice test or constructed response sample for the grade you're in. Once you have selected the practice test for your grade, choose the subject you want to practice. Finally, select the accommodations. Text-to-speech can be applied to any test. The last item, grade 3 to 9 ASL accommodated items, should be selected only if you want to practice using accommodations like American Sign Language. Chapter 2. Logging in and taking the test. On the day of the test, you will be provided a test ticket with information necessary to log in. You'll need to type your username, password, and session ID exactly as it appears on your test ticket. AK Star is not timed. You will have as much time as you need to finish the test, so take your time to do your best work. When you select your answer, you will use the next button to move on to the next question. Once you respond to a question, you cannot go back or mark questions for review. Once you start the test, you'll see your first question. Here, you can see the tools you'll use while taking the test. You can select these tools by clicking on the Tools button at the top of the screen. The Help button is located at the top right of the screen. It is a great way to learn about all the tools and question types presented on the AK Star test. Each tool and question type has a short video explaining what it is. The more you practice using the tools, the easier it will be on the day of the test. Watch these videos to reinforce what you have learned in this tutorial. The Markup button can provide you with several ways to mark the text and questions as you read them. When you select the Markup button, you will see options such as a highlighter, as well as a drawing tool. You can also capture your ideas on sticky notes. If you need to step away from your device during the test, select the Pause button at the top right of the screen. Your test will be paused. To resume, simply select the Resume button. Select the Logout button only when instructed by your teacher. Continue to respond to questions until you receive a congratulations you've finished your test screen and can select the Exit button to close out the test. This will take you back to the login screen. Chapter 3. Test-taking tools. Now, let's look at the tools you can use to help you answer the questions. This tutorial will show you where they are and what they do. After you finish this tutorial, you can take online practice tests that will let you practice using all the tools and responding to the types of questions that you will see on the test. First, we'll look at the tools in the bar at the top. You can use Magnify to make the pictures and words on your screen appear larger. Select the magnifying glass to use the Magnify tool. Once you have zoomed in, the test will stay zoomed in unless you use Magnify to zoom out by selecting the minus sign. You can also use the Ctrl+ or Ctrl- keys at the same time using your keyboard to zoom in and out. You can use the Color button to change the color of the words in background on the screen. Select the Color button, then choose the color setting you want to use. The words in background will change color right away. When you are finished choosing a color, select the X in the color window to make it go away. To change the colors back, select the Color button again and choose Default. Now, let's look at the tools in the main toolbar. Select the Tools button. Different questions might have different tools available, and they vary by grade level. Toggle between the Tools button and the Markup button to view and use the different types of supports. You can use the guideline to highlight one line of words at a time. Select the guideline button and the guideline appears on your screen. Move your mouse up and down to move the guideline. If you're using an iPad, the guideline stays still, but you can scroll the reading passage up and down. If you want to stop the guideline from moving, click the lock button. Select the lock again to let it start moving. Select the guideline button again to make it go away. The eliminator is only available on multiple choice questions. You can use the eliminator to mark answers that you know are incorrect. This can help you focus on figuring out which answer is correct. Select the eliminator button, then select any answers that you know are incorrect. Those answers will have a red line or X over them. If you decide that you don't want to hide an answer, select the answer again. You can use the notepad to make notes to help you answer a question. Select the notepad button, then start typing. Select the X to close the notepad, or the line button to minimize it. The notepad will keep your notes when you close or minimize it as long as you are on the same question or reading passage. Once you move on to a new passage or question, your notes will be cleared. On some questions, you might see a separate notepad icon for the passage as well as the answer section. Use the Sticky Notes button to capture quick notes as you read through passages or solve math problems. Sticky notes remain on passages. Once you move on to the next item or passage, your sticky notes will be cleared. You can add multiple sticky notes, minimize certain ones or remove them by selecting the Delete button on the sticky note. The drawing markup is like using a pencil to draw shapes. You can use it to help you focus on keywords and sentences. The lines markup is useful for underlining key terms or phrases in a passage. The points markup can be used to help draw your attention to on specific paragraphs or answers. The color markup can be used to choose the color of the drawing, lines, or points you want to use. Choose a color first before choosing to use drawing, lines, or points. Use Erase to remove the drawings, lines, or points you have added. Select the Graph Paper button to show a piece of graph paper. To add points, lines, or line segments to the graph paper, select either the Points or the Lines button and select or tap on the graph paper where you want to place the point, line, or line segment. To move a point, line, or line segment, select the arrow icon, then select the point, line, or line segment you want to move. To delete a point, line, or line segment, select the Delete button, then select on the point or line you want to delete. To remove all points, lines, or line segments, select the Clear icon. Select X to close the graph paper window, or the Line button to minimize it. Chapter 4. Text-to-Speech. If you are using text-to-speech, you will be prompted to verify the audio is working appropriately when you enter the test. Select the Speak button to hear the audio. The following text will be read aloud.
The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy white dog.
When you see the confirmation screen asking you if you were able to hear the text, select Yes or No. To adjust the volume or settings, select the Audio button on the top right of the Tools bar. To play the text, select the Speak button. You can play all of the directions and response options, or select a word, sentence, or paragraph. If you've selected just a word, sentence, or paragraph to be read, you will need to deselect it to have all text read again and also to respond to answer choices. The buttons will change from blue when selected and gray when unselected. The No Speak icon lets you know that this portion will not be read aloud. Chapter 5. Math Grades 3 to 5. On math questions, in Grade 5, you can use a math reference sheet. Select the Reference Sheet button to use the math reference sheet with formulas and other information to help you answer questions. You can use this reference sheet on any math question. Select the X to close the reference sheet, or the Line button to minimize it. On some math questions, in Grades 4 and 5, you can use a ruler to measure. You'll know that you can use the ruler on a question if you see a ruler button in the toolbar. The ruler has two sides, metric which measures centimeters, and customary which measures inches. Select the ruler button, then drag it to where you want to use it. Rotate the ruler by selecting the Rotate icon on the screen and dragging the ruler. You can make the ruler straight again by selecting the Reset button. On some math questions, in Grades 4 and 5, You can use a protractor to measure angles. You'll know you can use a protractor on a question if you see a protractor button in the toolbar. Select the protractor button, then drag it to where you want to use it. You can rotate the protractor by selecting the rotate icon on the screen and dragging the protractor. Chapter 6. Math Grades 6 to 9. On math questions in grades 6 through 9, you can use a math reference sheet. Select the reference sheet button to see formulas and other information to help you answer questions. On some math questions, you can use a scientific calculator to help you answer the question. You'll know that you can use the calculator on a question if you see a scientific calculator button in the toolbar. Select the button to show the calculator. To hide the calculator, select Hide or select the Scientific Calculator button again. You can move the calculator by selecting the top bar and dragging. The calculator will save what you're working on just as long as you are on the same question. The calculator shows your answers as you type, so it does not have an equals key in the main menu. The answer key, listed as ANS, will enter the answer to the last problem you completed on the calculator into the current row. You can use the scroll bar to see the rows you have entered. Select the different tabs to see the different functions of the calculator. Use the slider to choose between answers in radians and degrees. Use the undo key to undo your last action and the redo key to redo it. A scientific calculator is only available for grades 6, 7, and 8 math items when allowed. A graphing calculator is only available on grade 9 math items when allowed. Chapter 7. Tips. Here are some tips for taking the test. Tip number 1. Answer selection. When you select an answer, the answer will be highlighted in blue and have a blue box around it. The blue box moves when you choose another answer or if you click one of the other buttons on the test, but your final answers will be highlighted in blue. If you decide that your answer you chose isn't right, select that answer again, and the blue highlight will go away to show that you have unselected that answer choice. You can then pick a new answer. If you want to erase all your answers, select Clear at the top. Some questions will have 2 parts. For example, Part B is asking for which sentence taken from the passage best supports the answer in Part A. Answer both parts, then continue to the next question. Some questions will show a reading passage and question side by side. Tip number 2. Select all that apply. Some items will require multiple answer choices. You must respond to all answer options to move to the next question. The answers you choose will be highlighted in blue. If you want to choose a different answer, just select that answer instead. If you did not select the appropriate number of answers, you will see a blue text box letting you know you did not select enough options. If you select the next button before you have fully answered the question, you will see a message letting you know you did not select enough options. Important note, you will keep receiving the message prompting you to select the required number of answers to move on. Tip number 3. Equation editor and text entry. Some questions have short fill-in-the-blank answers, where you will enter a number or expression. Select the box and enter your answer. If you want to change your answer, you can select the box again, delete your previous answer, and enter your new answer. Tip number 4. Drag and drop. Some questions will ask you to match items. When you select a response, the boxes will be highlighted in yellow for where they can be placed. Tip number 5. Punctuation. This type of question asks you to move one or more punctuation choices into the space provided. The space will be highlighted in yellow for where they can be placed. Tip number 6. Constructed response. Some questions ask students to write a short response. In ELA, students will write a response based on a passage or passages. In math, students will write a response that includes a combination of words and math expressions or equations. The equation editor buttons can be used to add mathematical symbols to your answers. You've now finished this tutorial. The next step is to take the practice tests and use the tools you learned today. If you have any questions about what you've learned today, ask your teacher. During the test, remember to do your best work.